Hello viewers. So today we have got Dr. Mallika Chatterjee. She is a neuroscientist at Amity University. Welcome, Dr. Mallika.
Thank you.
Dr.
Thank you,
Mallika is
Dr.
a
Varshney.
Fulbrighter, and can I request you to share your academic journey so that our viewers could get familiarized with your academic profile?
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Varshney, for inviting me for this opportunity to talk about my academic journey so far. As you said, currently I am an associate professor at Amity Institute of Neuropsychology and Neurosciences at our Noida campus. I started my journey in bachelor's, I would say, because I took up human physiology at Presidency College, Kolkata. And from there, I did a master's from there on in genetics because I was very interested in the upcoming field at that point it was around 2002 that I did my master's. And I was interested in doing genetics. And I felt that it was an incredibly important subject, which we should learn. And I had a very nice time at Calcutta University, where I did my master's in genetics from. And we were also the first batch which Calcutta University had introduced in 2002. And we had a very new type of module because we had that semester-wise system, which earlier we didn't have. So it was a new type of, examination system and all for me. And I'm thankful to see you for that exposure. During that time, I also did a year-long dissertation in IIT Bref Biotech at IIT Kharagpur, which was part of our MSc dissertation. And I got to see and learn plant genetics in that lab because that lab particularly specialized in plant genetics. So that was my first research exposure during master's, apart from the practicals, which we of course used to do in my bachelor's. But back then we had very few internship exposure. That is one thing I always felt we lacked, as we went on to do a PhD. Coming to after masters, I went for a PhD in developmental neurobiology in 2005 fall. I joined University of Connecticut Health Center in the lab of Professor James Wiley, who was a developmental neurobiologist from Skirball Institute of Medicine, which is New York University. And there I worked on a transcription factor called GBX2 and its role in the mouse thalamus. So I did a lot of these histological techniques and mouse breeding. Those were my expertise at that point. And of course, I focused on the brain as the model, to look at. And I basically, as part of my PhD, we unraveled the genetic mechanisms, or I shouldn't say all the genetic mechanisms, but some of the genetic mechanisms that underlie the development of this very crucial structure called the thalamus, taking the mouse as a model system. 5 years after my PhD, that is 2012, I was in touch with various faculty, both in India and abroad. And I was in the US at that time, wrapping up my PhD. And in the last few months, I was interviewing at various places in US and India. At the same time, I was also speaking to a particular faculty member at TIFR Mumbai, Tata Institute of Fundamental Research. In the Department of Biological Sciences, there's Professor Shubha Tole. So we were in communication, and she actually told me that there is a Wellcome Trust Early Career Grant, which you can write if you want to come back to India, and that would give you a lot of, assured funding. And it was a very lucrative grant. It was just the second year, I think, of application, 2012, that is. So one of our postdocs in the lab had already applied for that. And so I thought that I will take a chance. Why not come back to India and try, doing science there? And TIFR seemed like obviously a very good institute to work in. So I came back to India 2012 and joined Shubha's lab. 2013, actually, at that time, my first authored paper wasn't, it was submitted, it was under review, but was not yet published, So we thought we'll just wait for the paper to be published. and then submit for the application for the Wellcome Trust Early Career Fellow Grant proposal. So 2012, middle of 2012, I applied for the Wellcome Trust and I started my fellowship in 2013, April. So for 5 years, I was in Shubha's lab. I focused on the development of another structure of the brain called the choroid plexus and the hippocampus, which Shubha is a world-renowned expert in actually. So working with her was another learning, because I learned a lot from her international exposure. I've learned a lot from Shubha, apart from my US PhD, of course. While I was there, another interesting opportunity came up suddenly while Shubha was visiting another lab in Japan, and she was attending a meeting there. So she said, Mallika, why don't you go to Japan? That was not part of my proposal originally, but she said, why don't you go to Japan to learn live imaging of mammalian tissue? Okay, and keeping mammalian tissue alive while imaging for 24 or 48 hours is a quite challenging task. And this person called Dr. Nakajima, Professor Nakajima at Keio University, was good enough to actually give me a spot in his lab as a visiting fellow. So I spent 3 months, again, with the gap of 3 months, I had gone back there and learned the live imaging technique there. So that was one interesting stint I had got. And in this context, I should also tell you that I got this Asia Pacific Developmental Biology Grant, which is given to young postdoctoral fellows who are wanting to take a short stint abroad and need the travel money. They may have another bigger grant to support them otherwise, but the travel may be supported by such grants, which is useful, I think, to know. So after that, what happened was I came back 2018. I was done with my tenure as an early career fellow at TIFR. And due to personal reasons, I had to move to Delhi. So after I moved to Delhi, I applied in various places. And Amity University had this new department of neurosciences, which had actually opened with our under the guidance of our honorable founder, President Dr. Ashok Chauhan. So he had the vision of actually thinking that neuroscience would be a great department to start. And I would proudly say that we are perhaps still now, if I'm not wrong, as of date, the only university with a BSc in neuroscience program running at Amity. And people have, we have MSc neuroscience programs in other university, but we have in AINN, that is our department, we have both BSc and MSc as well as PhD program running.
Great.
Currently.
It has been a great journey, Dr. Mallika, starting from presidency to Connecticut to then New York and coming back to Bombay and now at Amity, and of course in short stint in. But today we will focus on only one of them, your Fulbright assignment. So viewers, Fulbright offers fellowship at various levels: master level, doctoral level, postdoctoral level, and faculty level. And Dr. Mallika availed it at the faculty level. Dr. Mallika, how difficult it is to apply for this fellowship? What is the kind of preparation you are required when you are going for Fulbright Faculty Award? And how difficult or how challenging it is? What is the level of competition one faces?
Right. So just to therefore state it, right now, this faculty level fellowship is called the Fulbright Nehru Academic and Professional Excellence Fellowship. So I would say I would take the first question, that is the preparation by itself I would say you have to be smart, because the most important thing, is that you have to know whether whatever you're applying for or whatever is scientific part of the proposal, you have to write a short proposal. So that proposal has to align with your current interests and what it can be of benefit, whether it can be of benefit to the institution in which you are currently in, or even if you're a freelancer. But in our case, I think mostly we are part of institutions as a scientist, right? So whether the project topic aligns with what you're doing currently, and it would be a sort of an extension of what you would like to do, and what some technique or something that you would learn from the US and bring it back to your institution and be able to benefit India. And at the same time, what would you give to the institution that you are going to? So broadly, these are the two most important things, I think.
What you're trying to say, it should be a win-win for both partners.
Yes, absolutely. Because it's a bilateral, arrangement, as they call it, right? So therefore, US has to win. India has to gain something from our travel to their country, or else why would they pay for it? So therefore, for me, I would just give my example. I think that's simpler to put it rather than being, so playing around the bush. So what I did was, at the point where I applied, I was actually with under the guidance of our HOI Professor Mallika, who had just joined our Department of Neuroscience. I was setting up the zebrafish facility in the department. So zebrafish shortly is actually another model organism of neuroscience. Till my postdoc, I've been working on mice. But lately we have found that, mice were becoming very expensive to maintain. Okay, so people have found alternative model organisms. One is the zebrafish. So it is a validated model of neuroscience. Professor Mallika asked me that, Mallika, would you like to set it up? Because it would be a cost-effective system to set up and would answer many of our neuroscience questions. And I actually happily took up the challenge, because I also was thinking along the same lines. Right, so it sort of aligned our thought processes. So it was February 2022, I actually started setting up the zebrafish facility with a small grant and with Amity's help in our department. At the same time, I was also thinking that I was ripping up papers, like what you do, it's like almost like learning a new subject. I was reading papers and all, and I was thinking, I am a developmental biologist. I also want to look at smaller, like zebrafish larvae. I was setting up adult studies, but I also wanted to do baby studies because I'm a developmental person. So I was looking at the paper of this person called Professor Cretan, who was my host eventually from Brown University. And at the same time, the Professor Silvamurthy's, Dr. Silvamurthy's office staff sent me the intimation for the Fulbright Fellowship that, you can apply for this, and along with 2 other faculty, of course. It just crossed my mind that, okay, I want to learn a particular technique which was there in the paper. And it would be great if I could go for a few months and be there and learn the technique. And with the person there, I mean, the host there, he could give me useful insights, and I could come back and set it up in our department here. Okay, so that was my goal. And when I wrote to this person, Professor Cretan, fortunately for me, he actually replied saying that, see, Mallika, I don't have immediate grant money to support you, but if you can get an external fellowship, I would be happy to host you for some whatever number of months. Okay, so that is exactly how it happened. So I went and did my Fulbright application. So this was my background of fellowship. And as I said, again, this exactly aligned with what I wanted, my immediate goal and my institute's future goal. I would bring it back to India and set this system up. So that is why I applied. Okay, and it was just the correct timing for me, right? So that is the coming to the second part as to how difficult I found it. I would say it is just like any other grant, maybe actually a bit shorter, in fact. So I can't say it is very difficult to apply for it. Things are quite simple when you go online. The website of Fulbright, USEIF, the agency which administers the Fulbright. So their website is pretty detailed. And the people there are also helpful. Like I, in fact, didn't attend a webinar because I didn't have the time to. I just opened the website once Silvamurthy sir's office sent me, and I read up the website, and it was pretty straightforward. I applied, but yes, I would always say this. I think letters of recommendation do make a difference. So we have to make sure we put them in the correct format as Fulbright asks for, and approach the correct people in correct time so that they can also submit around the time when our actual deadline is. And that really helped me, I think. Of course, it's, what people have told me is that the CV matters. CV does matter in addition, your own CV, the applicant CV, in addition to your application.
I have been on the other side of the table, so I could add a little. that in fact, besides what Dr. Mallika said, that your research interests should sync, you should be having a win-win situation for both stakeholders. What we are looking at is that what is the kind of learning you are going to make and what kind of contribution you are going to give to the society. Because at the end of the project, it is the society which must benefit, not you as an individual, but as a researcher, you can contribute directly to the society. So friends, it is important we should maintain timelines. We should contact the right person beforehand, and when we apply in full confidence. And what Dr. Mallika said, I have also experienced the number of outreach activities planned in all zones of the country. So I could say at least 5 zones: North Zone, Central Zone, Southern Zone, Eastern Zone, Western Zone. It may be in your city, it may not be in your city, but if you get an opportunity, join this, one of these, they help you in further refining your application, how you can make your application much better. Dr. Mallika, coming to your assignment in US on this particular fellowship, can you tell us a little more? What was your exposure like? What did you learn? And what kind of best practices now you would like to adopt at your institute, Amity?
Right, absolutely. So this is, as I said, for me, and you're perfectly right in saying that it isn't just my proposal. This is probably one of the fewer grants where, unlike other grants, it is not a proposal just for me. Because the work which we outline, yes, it might be having some objectives which will, being a scientific proposal, it will have very clearly stated goals that I want to achieve. But even if I personally achieve that, when I come back, and you reminded me because I was just thinking about my proposal, there I'd actually put in that in the long run, how will my research or the thing that I learned there come back and help people at various strata of the society of whom I interact with? And one example I would just give, because I put in that with the system that I'll set up here, we can have like an open house or sessions for school children to learn about various model organisms. And that would also give, because I was talking about behavior in the zebrafish. So that would be a very interesting, like an exposure for high school students, and which was actually one of my points in the proposal that I wrote. Right. Now, coming back to what exposure I had, what was the real-time ground experience? I've been fortunate to have a very good experience if I consider research-wise and also learning the best practices there. While at Brown, because as a Fulbright Fellow, I not only experienced the lab, but I also experienced the university. More so probably because I had gone at the faculty level. I was fortunate to interact with other faculty, not only from Brown University, but also I went back to my alma mater, which is University of Connecticut this time, because I went for a talk there and I interacted with other faculty there also. So that tremendously helped in increasing my network in US. That's a very personal achievement, but it also helps the institute, because once I was back in the institute, we were talking about how collaborations could be set up between me and the others with the faculty I had met there. And I would serve as sort of the tethering point where I could set up meetings, arrange for meetings and introduce our other faculty to these people. So that is one great advantage at the faculty or the postdoc level, is to develop collaborations. For PhD scholars, it is interesting because you can look at future postdoc opportunities there once you're going as a Fulbright Fellow. Now, what did I learn in the lab? As I said, we had very clearly stated objectives in the goal that I wrote, in the grant that I wrote. Therefore, my mind was that, okay, I have gone there for 9 months. I should maximally utilize their system to learn. And I was fortunate enough because the lab was small. And the host was very gracious enough to give me the whole time on the instrument that I learned. And I could tweak around, I could play around with the behavioral things. And I changed a lot of the paradigms and, learned a lot, and also troubleshooted things with them while they were there. So this has actually greatly enhanced my learning, which wouldn't have been possible if I had just followed the paper and set up the system here, right? So that was learning at that level. Also, we are hoping that from the data I acquired from the instrument while there, I'll be able to sort of write up like at least 3 manuscripts with Robert as collaborator. Robert, my host, as a collaborator while I was there. So that was a great personal earnings for me. And apart from that, what was there was, what would I do? Best practices. Yeah, coming to best practices. One thing I've always felt that, and I always, now, any platform I go to, because it's been 6 years for me in academia in India, in an university. So I always bring this up, and I bring it up even more because I think when you have to, when you join as a faculty, yes, my duties are there as teaching. As a teaching faculty in any Indian university I join, you can't say no to teaching. And teaching is a great way to train the future scientists. But also at the same time, I feel our councils, academic councils and all, must really sit down and consider, there should be separate line of research-only faculty, teaching-only faculty beyond a point. Because yes, in the junior years, it is good to try and do both. But beyond a certain point, if your man hours need to be carefully sorted out to allow more productivity to happen for researchers. And also, I think that's something I've seen in Brown, because my faculty host was a research-only faculty. There are cons associated being a research-only faculty. Okay, and compared to what they call a tenure track, right, which I'm sure Sir Dr. Varshney knows. But at the same time, the faculty, if he or she shows enough promise, he must be given the choice that, what do you want to become, teaching, or you want to do research only, or a combination of both.
Yeah,
so that is one flexibility.
I think we are still very far behind this concept, and in very few university in India offer research only positions. Of course, research institutions do that. Dr. Mallika,
Yes.
If you could tell us about your current work and your future plan, how would you like to grow? How do you see these collaborations, these fellowships helping you in growing up as a scientist?
Absolutely. Yeah, because as I said, I think that this is like a stepping stone towards my next career, because this Fulbright fellowship has helped me immensely, in increasing further collaborations internationally. Well, I would say that I had a certain advantage because my PhD boss was already in US. So I had a certain advantage, but visiting that place, giving a talk there, thanks to the Fulbright stint, has made it possible to have people know me personally. So therefore, collaborations have become much more easier. Now, when I write an email to anybody in my alma mater, they are even more, receptive. Okay. Same thing with having a Fulbright fellowship on your CV, and of course, having papers and all out of it greatly matters. Because I think that anybody, if you're going for a grant or some other application later, your CV will be enormously strengthened by the fact that, you have met a benchmark. So international benchmark, and Fulbright is one of those fellowships, I think, which is a benchmark, because you've gone through the rigorous process of being chosen, in the interviews and all that. So that's a great thing to have as a young faculty who is starting off. Now, what would I want to do? As I said earlier, my third objective at Fulbright was actually bringing the technique back to India and setting it up. And I'm very grateful to Dr. Silvermurthy and Dr. Ashok K. Chauhan, who actually has been helping me to, in a month or two, we hope to set up that system in Amity. And I hope to start doing experiments with it. We have actually got collaborators from government places who are wanting to get data from that instrument. So I'm very happy. And I hope in a month or two, I can give you more updates on that.
I think neuroscience requires a lot of support. In fact, we have got a couple of institutes in Manesar and Bangalore.
Right.
Independent university and institute can also contribute in a significant way.
Right.
And our good wishes to you for all your efforts.
Yes.
Goodbye for today. Thank you.
Thank you.